that I do want to continue to get smarter. And when I say smarter, I don't mean book smart. I don't mean be able to regurgitate a bunch of historical dates or facts or anything like that. I mean smarter as a human, a person, where I start to understand people better, to take them more at face value, to start to understand that they're only operating from a place that they can operate. And whether they accept me or not, that's on them.
Hello, hello, and welcome to KeyBARD. I am Thembi, and I am Thembi. I'm a theater artist, educator, and tech enthusiast who loves to talk to interesting people about their journeys in arts, education, and technology. On this episode, I'll be speaking with Deidra LaWan Starnes, an award-winning actor, director, educator, and associate artistic director whose impact on the DC area theater scene runs deep. She's one of those people who leads with love and tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. But that's what makes her so unforgettable on stage. We cover a lot of professional and emotional ground in this conversation, and I suspect that even if you happen to be a theater practitioner and you've been blessed with the privilege of knowing her or working with her, you are going to learn something new today. I won't hold you. Deidra LaWan Starnes is next. Welcome, Deidra. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Thembi. Thank you for having me.
Good. I'm so happy you're here. Let's just jump in. Okay, so I want you to describe for us the very first artistic experience that you had that you can remember.
I was just sharing this with someone a few days ago. The very first theatrical experience I had was a show in Philly, I believe, because I was very young, called Black Terror. And my mom was in it. I can't even tell you what part she played. It had video. They were jumping on the roofs with their machine guns. And I think they were supposed to be like Black Panthers or something. I don't know. I was little. But there was a scene where there was a man and a woman in the kitchen with a cot, and they were arguing. Or maybe it was a bed, or maybe it was a couch. I don't remember exactly, but there was a kitchen. And they got into an argument, and she pulled a knife on him. And then all of a sudden the music comes in. Dun, 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 dun. Mary wants to be a superwoman. And he eased that knife from her. And the next thing I know, they was doing the nudie crunch.
The Nudie Crunch.
The nudie crunch. I
To
told you I
some
was little.
Stevie.
To some
Uh-huh.
Stevie. And
Okay.
I searched for that song when I got older. Because it's two parts.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I can remember about a theatrical experience. So I don't remember my mom. I remember the video, and I remember that love scene.
Okay, that's powerful.
Hmm.
And so that from there on, you were like, yep.
I was a hopeless romantic for the rest of my life.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, you do a lot. You're a director, actor, educator, writer, filmmaker, many more things. What has driven you, though, to dedicate your career to a variety of forms of dramatic storytelling? Because that seems to be where everything is centered, right? Around telling stories. So, what draws you to that?
That's an interesting question. One of my therapists told me I needed to find something outside of all of that
Oh,
because my
wow.
life seemed to revolve around it. Um, I don't know what draws me to it. It just feels right. It feels good. And then I have moments when I feel like God is actually moving me in a specific direction. It was not my intention to be a professional actor or to be involved in theater outside of just maybe doing a play here and there with the rep, which was around when I was growing up. But to get a degree in it, 2 degrees in it, and to work in it as a teaching artist, as a performing arts teacher, and now a first associate artistic director. I didn't dream about those things. I dream of a better world. And if I can do that through art, that would be great. But I still don't necessarily dream the arts. I want to say things the way that I know how to say them, and that is through words and artistic expression.
So, what themes and aesthetics do you find yourself drawn to as a director?
I love women's stories, any kind of women. Someone even said that to me. I just finished directing Sofa and Sofa and Hang, and they both were female driven. And somebody actually said that, you love giving voice to women. And I was like, huh, I suppose I do. But I like giving voice to the unheard. And, I think the most unheard seems to be women, lower on the food chain, lower in terms of how much respect we're given. But I think women are a force of nature. I think women of all cultures are a force of nature. But I also like stories about family. And I love stories that there's no answer as well. I love stories where the audience has to figure out what the end is, use their own imagination and creativity to figure out where the characters go next.
I like that because it makes it so that we're not passive in the experience and we don't walk out of the piece feeling like, okay, what's next? I don't know, barely remember. Well, we
Exactly.
still have more questions and conversations to have. I like that.
Exactly.
So you're a performer with a range of theatrical credits. So what's your process for stepping into the emotional world of a character that you play?
I would say that it's different for every show that I do because it really does depend on the cast, the role, and the director, what the director allows or does not allow, what the director's vision is. A lot of times I do try to find the character physically. How does this character walk? How does this character move? And sometimes it takes me a while to find that. But I feel like once I find how the character moves and talks and breathes, then I can get everything else in there, understanding what they want and different ways to get it. And I love to play with words, the important words in this phrase. What are the important words in this phrase? And what is the best way for my character to articulate this particular idea? And it changes from show to show, contingent upon the cast and the director.
That's interesting. So what kind of director do you feel is most helpful to your process? You talk about looking for the aspects of the character, the physical aspects that you want to settle into.
Mhm.
What's a directing style that works better for you? I know that there are some actors who want tons of space to create their character and make lots of choices, and other actors who are more of like, tell me what you're looking for, help me
Mhm.
understand what you want, I'll do that. And then the ones who are like, well, let's play and let's discover through play, amongst other ways of being. Do any of those resonate with you?
I really like directors who let us play. Angelisa Gilliard, when we did monologues, let us play a lot. And I didn't even know I could be so absurd.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had so much fun because she let us play. And I also love directors who know how to talk to actors. Some directors are very literal and everything sounds like a textbook. I remember doing one show and the director was giving this one actor, you know, something. I don't know what it was because I couldn't figure it out. And the actor looked at him and said, "Tell it to me in a verb."
Hello. Can we
And
act? Can we do a
can we
thing? What
can
is the
you
thing
can
that
you
I'm
tell me what to
doing?
do
Yeah.
versus all this language? I love getting into the psychology of a character, but I feel like when you get so bogged down by the psychology of a character and the words of a character, and you forget that human beings change on a dime.
Yeah.
that you haven't been in every situation known to mankind to know yourselves. I know we say, I know myself, I know me. You know you in particular situations at a particular time, at a particular point in your life. For me, I've had to come to grips that as I was getting older, there were some changes happening in me that were having an effect on me. And I didn't understand that. I didn't accept it. And I didn't give myself space. And I think, had I given myself space to understand the changes that were happening in me, I would have been a little bit better.
in
You
terms
know,
of,
that I was very emotional for like decades, but some stuff and me started happening very, very early. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. And we're not taught that. But when you understand that you're a living, breathing human being that has successes and failures, and you can walk in that victory of, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make this happen.
I'm sorry, so you mean better in terms of your well-being,
Better in terms of
personal.
my well-being. And if
Got
my
you.
well-being is better, my artistry is better.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood. Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that was fine because I felt like I was going on a tangent anyway.
Mm-mm. No, that was I was processing that. That's interesting because, you know, in the actor space, we don't talk a lot about what happens as you age. From the outside, you're now being cast as different characters. Oh, now you're the mother, now you're the grandmother, now you're, sure, okay. But what's happening inside you as a
Hmm.
human being that is shifting the way you see the work as well as the way you do the work. So
Yeah.
that's something thoughtful to consider and to
Mhm.
ponder and maybe, think about how that needs to be a part of the actor's process because as an educator, I don't really teach anything with regards to aging because usually you're teaching younger performers
Yes.
and if you're teaching older performers, they're career changers or they're experienced and they're already there's something specific they're trying to work on, And it's
Yes.
interesting that I don't think that ever has crossed my mind to talk about, well, what happens as your body changes, as your mind changes, your life experiences change. What do you think about that? Is that something that you feel deserves some space in our conversation and in our the way we educate around acting?
I believe it does. When you talk about working with younger actors have 18 to 20 some odd years of experience walking in a particular world, whereas an older person has that much more time walking in a particular world. So your viewpoint and my viewpoint of what's happening today is very different from someone who has been dealing with what's happening politically since 2000. That's their world. That's what they know. That wasn't how we grew up. We grew up with integrity. Whether there were things happening behind closed doors is something else, but at least in public eye, there was integrity, there was decency, there was honesty. So sometimes what I run across is remembering who I was at a particular age. Because as you get older, you get a little more skeptical, you're a little more wise. And so handling the text because I don't always get cast my actual age. Thank God for my genes. So I have to remember that this particular Deirdre character is different from who I am today. Thinks different, doesn't know as much, isn't so tainted, believes a little more in the magic and things of that nature.
Do you find when you're engaging with younger actors with material in the canon that was created before a lot of the pandemic, the current political situation, do you find that there are gaps in their understanding around just approaching characters who lived in that time?
There is definitely a gap. A lot of times I have to encourage them to do their own research. So if I love The Old Settler. I love that play. I love that story. And I assign it a lot in my acting and directing classes. And sometimes I have to tell them, look up how women behaved, look up how they sat. You know, what is a what
Yeah.
is a girdle? But I always leave room for, we only know what we know. We only
Hmm.
know what we're told. So if Quilly is at church, Quilly's going to sit a certain way because we know that's what happened in public. But we also know that it's possible that Quilly's not going to be sitting all pretty with her knees locked. She may just kick back and spread her legs or something because we only know what we know. But teaching them that, I mean, I barely know it. I barely know those. I know those things because I was raised in a church. So, how women sat, how the older women who came up through a certain time sat, how they dress, how they carried themselves, just helping them understand that there are just certain things that in the public eye, certain ways that we, even as the Black diaspora, behaved in public. So just challenging them. I always say, look for what's between the lines. Well, just because the lines say something doesn't mean that that's what's happening in this entire scene. Do you mean what you say? And if you don't mean what you say, then how do you say it?
Mm-hmm. As a director, how do you feel that your work as an actor has served you? You talked earlier about how to talk to actors. Do you feel like being an actor helps you empathize more?
I do. And I think sometimes it gets in the way because I know how sensitive we are when we get notes or when it feels like the director is just picking on us. And when you're on that side of the table, sometimes you can only focus on one person at a time, particularly if it's the person you think is driving the scene. So I do tend to let folks know that up front. If it feels like I'm picking on you, don't worry about it. Somebody else will get their turn next week. Or I don't say anything to hurt you. I'm saying everything to make this a cohesive production. I try to remember to start. I forget that sometimes because I just want to get the work done, get the work done, get the work done. But I do try to be cognizant of starting with a glow, what you did well, what worked. And I do forget that sometimes because I'm like, but I do try to go, that was good, do more. More of that. I
More of
love
that
that.
right there. hmm I've watched actor directors direct and have a hard time keeping themselves from demonstrating what it is they want to see in an actor. Do you have to fight that urge, or are you very good at suppressing that?
I don't fight it. I just
Oh,
jump up because I'm physical. So
okay.
sometimes I need my whole body to explain it, but I will say, not like I said it. Not
something
like
something along these
right,
lines. This is my
something
interpretation.
right. This is my interpretation of what I think the character wants, but I do think I'm right in what the character wants. Now
Right.
I need you to show me in your body. And then sometimes though, actor really doesn't understand the blocking you're giving them. And instead of like sitting there going, okay, go from stage right to stage left. So sometimes it's just helpful just to do it. So I go, so you go here and I might, go beat bop, 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 or sing or something. And then I'm going to sit here and then I'm going to get back up and walk around here. That's not going to work with everybody. There are people that think I'm crazy or silly. And that's fine because I've had to deal with all kinds of directors in my life who were toxic and not fun to be around. And I choose to be a fun director. I'm naturally silly, and I say that up front. I am naturally silly, and I bring that to the table. But I'm also very caring, and I also have a good eye, a good ear, and a great heart. So for me, I get into the weeds of the character. I get into the weeds. So it's like, okay, so now you're going to this place, but you're going to this place and you just left this emotional tirade. And I want to see you moving in that. A lot of people will say, you can't play emotion. And I agree with that to a point. An audience does not understand objective. An audience doesn't connect with your objective. What they connect with is what they see, hear, and feel. So if your character is angry, then what does anger look like in your body and what does it sound like in your voice. So I do tend to allow actors to allow their emotions to be a part of how they create the character.
You mentioned Angelisa Gilliard, who's a fantastic director
Brilliant.
and just overall does lots of things. If I recall, she's a mathematician. She's an educator. Like she's got this full range.
Choreographer.
Choreographer. She's like super talented, Renaissance woman. And you said that you appreciated that she gave you the room to play. Do you feel like you give your actors room to play?
Yes, I learned it from Angelisa, and I have to tell you the funny thing when Angelisa and I worked together for the first time, me as an actor, she as a director, we were both nervous.
Ah.
We were both very nervous about being in the room with the other. You know, I didn't want to disappoint her in any way, and I was nervous. Um, but I do bring, and I also learned some things from Jose Carrasquillo. Check-ins and
Mm-hmm.
check-outs are very important. And then Lorraine Ressinger, who is a intimacy coordinator, a fight coordinator, all the things movement. While we were working in Hang, she suggested something that seems like it would make all the sense in the world, and yet we don't do it. She said to protect our emotional integrity, to protect our emotional integrity, when we take a break, take the break. No talking about the play, no working on your lines, no having a conversation with the stage manager, take the break. And while I was working with the cast of Hang, and I believe it worked with Sophonisba too, is that it gave them the opportunity to get to know each other because they weren't talking about the work. They were talking about themselves and checking about things that someone brought up the day before. And I think it's important to allow a cast or to usher a cast to be connected. I've watched shows where I didn't know which play certain characters were in, or plays, or people call it chemistry. And I won't say they did or did not have chemistry. I could just say I didn't believe they were in this loving or this maternal or this paternal or sibling relationship. And I think some of that is because people go to their separate corners. I've worked in shows where there were cliques, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm weird, I'm goofy, and I was often in the outside of the clique. So what I try to bring to the table is to make sure everybody feels like I care about them, and then everybody cares for each other. And and then I try to be very selective in the cast, making sure that I've been able to create an audition process where I can see the person as well as the talent.
Well, that's interesting.
It is because
I like that.
yeah, because you don't want a problem. And it's not just a problem for me, because if I'm being real, I can fire you.
Hello.
But I wouldn't want to do that or go through that. But someone who poses a problem in the cast, those casts that have that rebel rouser who, wants to complain about everything, um, doesn't like certain people in the cast, and then they start to like get in their little cubbies and talk, and that's very infectious, and so I don't want to create an environment where that happens to anyone. I want for the cast to be like joined at the hip and caring about each other. And so when we do our general auditions, I don't make them just audition. I challenge them to say, do you have any questions you want to ask me? Or I'll say, how was your day today? What's your favorite color? Blue or green? Just something where you see them respond. And the people that I tend to gravitate to are those who know how to play, and they enjoy playing. And those who listen. One example I have is we don't do paper headshots and resumes. We don't have a file. We don't keep files. We have a digital file. So people will say, we had general auditions. Do we need to bring our headshot and resume? No, we have it on file. Just make sure you have your updated headshot and resume in your profile. And people will come with their headshot and resume and say, well, I bought this just in case. And I'll go, well, you can keep it. I don't need it. And I remember one person saying, well, I'm just going to leave it here anyway.
Wow. After you said you can keep it.
That's not a listener.
Yeah.
That's not
That's
a
not a
listener. And it
listener.
wasn't that they weren't a good person.
Mhm.
It wasn't that they weren't talented. It's just that you're going to do what you want to do. So when I leave the show, the things that you've been trying to do that don't serve this production in the way that you think it does, it may serve. And that's the thing about actors. And I'm the same way. I care about my character. I don't care about anybody else's character. But the director has to care about everybody's story. And it has to be cohesive the way everyone engages with each other. So I don't want somebody that I think at the end of the day is going to go back to doing something that I didn't think served the story. I've had that happen. I will say it was a precast show and got some reports back. And I was like, oh, well.
Yep, that's what happens. That is what happens. It's an interesting process to think about as a show evolves and gets toward the end of its run, knowing that there are things that you probably could have facilitated to be more to serve the story better, and they
Mhm.
just don't happen based on, the relationship, the limitations of whomever,
Yeah.
as a director, we've talked a lot about how you engage with actors and performers, but you also have to engage with all of the designers of the piece as well as a stage manager. Can you talk about your process for getting them on the same page? I mean, what if you have a designer who wants to do what they want to do and isn't quite finding their way to your directorial vision?
Only had that happen once. And a part of it was because two different shows were being done. Two shows were being done at the same time. And I felt like the set more served the other show than it did the show I was directing. And, ultimately the designer essentially was like, I know better than you, yada yada yada. And so at some point you just stop fighting, right? I'm not going to sit here and fight about something because what makes this show is the actors make the show. So I'll go ahead and I'll deal with this. But I've not come across that ever since that one time. What I've gotten are a lot of designers who listen. I can give them words, adjectives, colors. I've had designers come to me like while we're in tech and go, D, I was thinking about this. What do you think? And I'm like, ooh, I like that. Where would you put that? So I feel like I've been blessed to have very collaborative designers. But then there are also designers that they want to try something that I wasn't thinking about. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't feel about that. And they're like, just hear me out or just let it play through. And then I'll let it play through. And I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's good. But I very often, since I'm directing mostly at first stage, we know the designers and we call back the designers who are people and who are good humans. And a lot of those designers, they design at the big theaters. I had one of them was designing at a bigger theater, and we have this tiny little theater, said they like designing for us better.
Oh, wow.
And
That
I
says a
know
lot.
it does. And I know we don't pay as much, but we do tend to try to stay away from the toxicity when we get into tech and make sure that, I've been in rooms as an actor where we don't even know who these people are. Who are these people in the room?
Wow. So they're not even connecting with you and letting you know who the designers are and helping you
Yeah.
understand the relationship
Yeah,
to
and
them.
we start first day of tech, like introduce yourselves, your pronouns, and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I may be guilty of doing that myself because you just get to the work. So that is something that I have to be cognizant of, is that if the production manager, doesn't facilitate that then as the director, I need to facilitate that.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like everything goes smoother when the actors who have felt very connected to the piece, all of a sudden they're seeing people they haven't seen maybe since first day of school, and certainly they weren't paying that much attention at that point. So I can imagine where they would feel like, okay, this is our sacred space. Who are these people? And
Exactly.
yeah, those that awareness is really important. So you have two master's degrees, and you're probably thinking of another one. You got one in filmmaking and one in theater or no, drama. What's your MFA in?
The MFA is in
It's in
drama,
drama. Thank you.
and
Yeah.
the MA is in producing film, TV, and video.
Okay. So you're probably thinking of another one.
I am.
Hmm.
I I really don't. I'm. I really don't know which one. But I feel like our young people need something different from me, and that my people need something different from me. So I don't know. I'm thinking of counselor or therapist, drama therapy, something along those lines. Sometimes I think about just getting a certification in real estate and helping people find homes. Yeah, and one of the things I started thinking about social work or therapy or counseling, and you and I talked about this, is because I want to have a haven that is dedicated to supporting troubled youth who are artistic. Artistic.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying for people. I love the connection of service to all of your work. What draws you to academia to continue to learn, to continue to certify, to continue to connect to formal education? How has that shaped your voice as a leader in the community in general and in the arts community?
I need the structure. I will be all over the place. I will be all over the place if I don't have structure. So, be it online or actually in the classroom, I do like having someone talking to me. I reading, I need someone deciphering what I'm reading if it's something that I need to be doing. And if you're deciphering when I read it, it makes a little bit more sense to me. But I do need decency and order. I have my own attention span issues. And so if I'm trying to do something on my own, totally on my own, learn something totally on my own, I'm going to get distracted. Like if I am looking for the link to do this interview and something else pops up in my email, I will start looking at that, which will lead me to Converse, which will lead me to designing a shoe, which will lead me to finding a whole outfit to try to match the shoe that I designed on Converse. So I need
Wow.
structure.
But still in a creative realm, just roaming free creatively.
Mhm.
Maybe that's just how it's meant to be. But I appreciate that you know that about yourself, and you know that if you want to accomplish a particular goal, that if you put that structure around yourself, then you will. And that's really, really powerful. With regards to your relationship with God and your faith, how does that show up in your work?
Oh my goodness. If it were not for my faith, I don't think I'd still be doing this. I went through a period, I think you called it my quiet years. Um, my quiet years, and I
We
was
all need
really
them. We all need a set of
a
quiet years, a
quiet,
quiet phase.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out who I was in Christ, who I was in the Lord, and had really gotten strict on what I would do in theater and what I wouldn't do in theater. And I came to understand that the world is not godly, that there are people who are not godly. There are people who are not kind. There are people who have trauma. I have trauma, and how it is not wrong to represent that. I don't think it's wrong anymore to represent that. Now, I will turn down a piece that I think is gratuitous, where I think the swearing is gratuitous or something that I couldn't sit through myself. I may turn something like that down, but I will swear now, whereas before I didn't. And I know, some Christian folks out there are like, oh, um, one of my students doesn't swear when they present their work. Um, and I just said, you got to find a word. You got to find a better word. You got to find a better word. And I lost out on some things. I think there's a director to this day that doesn't like me because I refused to cuss in my audition. Um,
That's interesting to me because I cuss regularly, right?
mhm,
But at the same time, I'm not a fan of cussing in auditions. I'm really not. And I hear so many people do it and it just grates against me. And I'm like, well, I've had to ask myself that question. Well, as much as you cuss, girl, like, why you have a problem with somebody else doing it? And there's just something about my first impression of you that, and I think
mhm.
it might be the way I feel like I curse, like I don't feel like when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I just go blah, 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 right? Like I feel like I do that when I'm in a comfortable state. So, do
Right.
you feel like when you hear people curse in auditions, does it throw you off? Do you like? How do you feel about that?
It really does depend on the words they're dropping and the content and the character. But it does, if it's too much, it does start to get jarring because then I hear the swear words, but I don't hear the actor. And I cannot tell if the actor picked this because people are told you got to pick a monologue that gets their attention. Well, you got my attention, but now I'm not listening to you anymore. So I don't know if you can act because I can't keep listening or watching what you're doing. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of shock and awe in theater, and that is neither right nor wrong. It just is. I like to tell stories very simply. I like to tell them very simply. I am so low stress when it comes to like tech and the set and when it gets done, or because at the end of the day, that's the set is beautiful, the lights are beautiful, the sound is beautiful. They're all very instrumental in creating the world of the play. But at the end of the day, the actors have to give all of that the reality that it needs. So I just I want to keep it real. You know, I yeah, I just like to keep it simple. I want to hear the words. I want to feel what the actors are feeling. And if I'm not buying in, sometimes it's hard to really get an actor to connect with their emotion. And I'm not talking about their traumatic emotion. I think that's horrible to do to someone. But sometimes, and this is why I love Viola Davis, sometimes actors are afraid to be ugly, to show the ugly.
Mm,
You're not attractive when you're yelling. You're not attractive when you cry. You're not attractive when you laugh. Uh,
mm-hmm.
if a camera were on me clicking every time I moved, you would see all the weird things that my face does every second. One eye will be open, one eye will be closed. And people are, they want to be seen on stage, but they want to present this really perfect thing. And I'm like, no, get ugly.
Mm,
Be ugly. Be real. Oh, but I don't think my character would. Well, then your character is getting boring.
mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like you were talking about a real person anymore.
Right. Because like I said, we only know what we're told. Sometimes I have people saying, well, I did my research and based on this character, they never da 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 da. And I said, you watched videos on YouTube of a person being interviewed. They were being interviewed in the same way that I'm being interviewed now.
Yeah.
When I'm done with this interview, a chair could fall on my toe and all that cussing I said I don't do, I might do. So I think we should always be able to explore the gamut of a character's capabilities and their emotions. I don't think, and this is why when people say, oh, he was such a quiet boy, who would have thought? Da 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 da. Well, because he wasn't just a quiet boy. He had things going on. And I really, as a director, want to lead actors to explore that. I have an actor right now in Sofanispa. Actually, all the actors are good, but the reason why I honed in on this one is because you tell them something and then they get nervous and then they go, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I know I didn't do that. And they beat themselves up. And by the time that show opened, and I knew it because I've worked with this actor before, that actor is so pristine and so carefully creative in their emotional, and when I give them like little nuggets, just little nuggets, they just suck it up and then they make it theirs. And that's a gift when you can take a director's direction and make it yours. And that's what I think they do so beautifully.
A director's dream, it sounds like, as an actor.
A director's dream. A director's dream. And I had, my last two shows, I've felt like I was in heaven with all of the actors, just receptive and determined. They did their homework outside of rehearsal, came in with ideas. Some worked, some didn't. But I just feel the last two shows, I felt incredibly blessed. And this kind of given me a little bit more confidence in myself as a director.
What about as a theater leader? You've been a fixture, a force on particularly in the DC market, all around, but particularly
Mhm.
pretty heavy in the DMV market. And it's beyond winning 762 Helen Hay. I'm sorry, being the recipient of hundreds, thousands of
I wish.
Helen Hayes awards and nominations as well, but also just being present in the community, advocating for women, advocating for Black folks, advocating for the the craft. What does it mean to be a leader in the field outside of the practice of the art form?
Thembi, I think that's a good question. I don't feel like a leader. I feel like I would say I'm thinking of the word icon, but not icon as an iconic, but somebody that people know about, someone that people know has been here for a minute and has, had all of these very, very different experiences. And I struggle with that. I struggle with, being a Black woman in the world and not being heard, even though I'm trying to say something, not being heard. I'm fortunate to have some people who glean from me. I wish more would. And I do know that a part of my silliness keeps people from taking me seriously, but I have so much to give. But I do feel quieted sometimes in this world of theater where we aren't the majority. That is something that I struggle with when I speak, that it's not understood that I'm speaking from a place of intelligence and experience. Um, so that's a struggle. And God and I are, we're working on that because now something that I taught my daughter, God is like saying, you remember you told your daughter that? It's your turn now. Where I used to tell Catherine, it's better to know you're right than to prove you're right.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And I told her that from when she was little, but I can't do it because in my own ego, I'm like, I am tired of people not hearing me. I am tired of people not taking me seriously. I know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you trust me. Kenyatta trusts me. Stefan trusts me. JJ, the people who know me trust me. This expression, the shiny new thing, is that none of us can ever be at the top of our game together.
Yeah.
We know we're at the top of our game, but it feels like the theaters only want that one.
Hmm.
Oh, this one is hot now. Let's get them. Oh, I can't get them, so I won't do the show this season. So why not ask this person?
Yeah.
But we get caught in, I mean, that's something we say like nationally, is that there can't be too many of us on the top at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not received. We receive it and we understand it and we recognize it. So I do struggle with that title of leader. But just when I struggle with things, God gives me a nugget. And I'm so grateful for that. This past fall, I think it was fall, I received an award for excellence in theater arts. And I was like, wow.
Well
I was like,
deserved.
wow. And Tom Story was in that group, who I think, I just love Tom's story. Bobby was in that group, an amazing musical director. And then who was the lighting designer? No, set designer. I can't remember the set designer's name, but just, these people who are at the top of their game. And for me to have been considered, I was in awe. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to feel about that. I, I had a moment of understanding what Jennifer felt after years and years and years of not being nominated even for awards, and then getting a lifetime achievement award, and that feeling of, okay, yeah, this is great, but recognize people when they should be recognized. And I say all that to say, I'm a leader in my home. I'm a leader in my heart. And I think I bring a lot to the table. But I believe that one of my journeys has to be a journey of humility, and that I need to learn how to do a workaround, you know, do a workaround. If there's something that I'm saying that I think has value, that others don't see it, then I need to figure out a way to do it for myself without getting myself in trouble.
That that's so wow. I mean, yeah, a workaround, being heard. Yeah, and what you teach Catherine, which is you said
I said that it's more important to know you're right than to prove you're right.
than to prove you're right. Okay. And so there's a certain element of peace and time and place where sometimes proving you're right doesn't really help the process overall.
Mm-mm.
And even though you know you're right, sometimes you have to let the chips fall and then you can just sit there and look and, I I told you. And that's a lesson in and of itself for everyone else but you have to sit through everybody else's lesson, and there's a certain unfairness to that, so I can understand where the ego comes in, because it's like I've learned this lesson 10 times over. I'm trying to get you to listen to me so we can move forward and not repeat it, whereas of course
Mhm.
they might listen to other folks and with way less qualification who are blatantly wrong and end up going in the wrong direction. So I can
Yeah.
understand where that can lead to those feelings of frustration. And I'm glad that you were honored because you deserve the honor. But I agree with you. We deserve honors when we earn them, not as an afterthought, not later, not,
Yeah.
oh, wow, okay, we're remiss in this. And the question becomes, how do we value each other? How do we
Yeah.
make sure that we support each other in ways that were the workaround? The workaround, right?
Sure. The workaround. And I also believe that an artist is given an incredible divine gift. I really do. And I feel like whether or not I get an award, whether or not I get acknowledged, whether or not I get a good review or unfavorable review, I'm going to do this because it's what was given to me. So I don't mean to give the impression that I have to be acknowledged. Because sometimes I walk away and go, okay, that's how you feel. I don't care. God gave me this gift and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it whether you like it or not. There are When I talked about getting ugly and I talked about Viola Davis, Viola Davis, people were like up in arms because she licked her snot. So she didn't lick your snot. But for me, that's what made Viola great, is that she worked around a problem while they were still filming. She saved them some money while keeping
That's
it
true.
real, while keeping it real, while keeping
Mhm.
it real. I feel that, I get in my feelings sometimes. I need to stop reading reviews. Most of the time I don't understand them. But I did get this one review. It was very fascinating. All these really favorable reviews about a show I directed. And then this one was it just hammered me. And one comment, and I'd never seen this before, one comment at the bottom said, I don't think we saw the same play.
Because what are you talking
Because
about?
what are you talking about? And I
Mhm.
and I recognize that sometimes people don't understand who we are and what we bring to the table. Um, I was described in a show once as a bull in a china shop instead of the softer side, whereas my co-actor was described as a warm cup of chamomile tea.
Wow.
And my thinking was it took the director a long time to get me to be that bull in the china shop because I
Hmm.
was resisting it. And he said, look at the language, look at how she's written. Go there. Ooh, go there. And so I did. And even though it hurt me to see bull in the china shop, um, I know what I can do, and I don't have to be a bull in the china shop. I chose to be a bull in the china shop, and I did what my director asked me to do. And I was very offended that as a Black woman, that's how I was described. That's how my gift was described. And I'm having a hard time letting that one go. I had to call Jefferson Russell on that one. I had to have a conversation with my peace brother on that one because that hurt.
There's a very muddy, dirty lens that a lot of people will use to view us through.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sometimes we end up feeling like it's our responsibility to clean that lens off. And then we realize, no, no, it's yours. And if you want to keep looking through this filthy lens that has no real view of who we are, the nuances, the depth, then that's when your lens is dirty.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And at this age, I am starting to understand there is nothing that I can do to change someone's opinion of who I am. I can only be myself, understanding that myself where I am right now should be better tomorrow. That I do want to continue to get smarter. And when I say smarter, I don't mean book smart. I don't mean be able to regurgitate a bunch of historical dates or facts or anything like that. I mean smarter as a human, a person, where I start to understand people better, to take them more at face value, to start to understand that they're only operating from a place that they can operate. And whether they accept me or not, that's on them. But I think my journey is a journey of accepting people where they are, and loving people where they are. And that's a tough one. Loving people right where they are. That one is so hard for me. But I know that that's that's on the slate of me and God's conversations. I think I shared with you, he told me the other day I had an ego. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. Yes, yes, I do. We all have egos.
Hmm.
But I think I've started using my ego more as a defense mechanism versus confidence in myself to stand tall regardless. So I have to get back to standing tall versus, again, fighting to tell the truth. I'm not going to fight you to tell the truth. Believe what you want to believe.
Yeah. And seeking out that support. Again, you talked about Jefferson Russell, who is the a perfect person to connect to and get support from because he's going to pour into you,
Mm-hmm.
another actor in the area and long-term titan of the field as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it really resonates with me when you talked about how this idea of, oh, there can only be one, and how can we all be at the top of our game at the same time and recognize ourselves and each other. And it really does seem to be through that counsel, that connection. So I'm glad that you had him to connect with
Yeah.
on that. And I think it's worth considering for us to start looking at reviews differently. A lot of us have come up in the field with a kind of an unspoken rule that you don't respond to reviews. And sure, okay, a lot of times we've wanted to and we haven't. But I think now that we've got access to each other in a different way through social media and through the internet, I think that's something that deserves to be re-examined,
I
you know?
agree. I agree. I did respond. I did send a comment to the website, and
Oh, good for you.
I
Good.
did. I said that I'm not. I really could care less whether you like my acting or not. I said, but to describe me, to compare me to an animal is racist, and you should know better.
Calling it out is so important because especially now, people feel very comfortable behaving terribly because they don't think there are going to be any consequences or any accountability. So I love that you called that out, and I'm glad. I
Yeah,
hope it made you feel more empowered.
a little bit.
Yeah. It's still,
Um,
yeah, I get it. It still hurts.
but the thing is, you're right. When people, have their muddy lens, and the way that, I was saying to someone the other day is that we can talk to each other a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and they can talk to each other a certain way. But there's a tonality when they talk to us that feels and sounds condescending, um, like they, disregard our feelings or our importance. And that gets very frustrating. The older I get, because the older I get, the younger the field is.
Yeah.
So I'm around more younger people now. And so sometimes, just like my thing is, I wouldn't dare talk to an actor my age the way that some young folks talk to their directors and stuff. I wouldn't dare do it. I might come to Thembi
Mm-hmm.
and be all like, you know what that motherfucker said to me? But
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that in and of itself was not right. Maybe I should have been more challenging. Maybe I should have been more challenging, but we weren't taught to be challenging. And I
Right.
think now that people are taught to speak their truth, they haven't been taught how to speak their truth. Because there is something to be said about speaking truth with integrity.
Absolutely.
And just because I can say it doesn't mean I should say it.
Yeah. Calibrating, finding
Hmm.
that balance,
Hmm.
using good judgment, critical thinking.
Hmm. Hmm. And we also need to, the other thing that I feel is happening is we don't even treat each other with respect. Like the galvanized crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
We run into each other when we would run into each other in auditions and everything. Be like, oh Lord, there goes Thembi. I know I'm not getting this part now. That there was a
Ah,
that, there was a camaraderie that we had that is like, as long as one of us get it, I'm good.
that's right.
But I feel that there now, and I used to say to people in the DMV, if you come across an arrogant actor in an audition, they're not from here. They're
Hmm.
new. They're new to this
Mm-hmm.
town because that's not what we do. We come to
No.
auditions with love, and I haven't seen you in a while. And how are the kids? And are you still in school? How's your mom? But what I'm seeing now is um, a generation, not all of them. So I don't mean to say this, but a generation of people who misunderstand self care for
Oh.
selfish.
Oh. Hmm.
Self care is not selfish. And I'm seeing that, and me in all my mommy ways wants to reach out and inform. And I remember we came up with Jewel Robinson, and
Yeah.
Jewel would give us a what, and we were fully grown, but we wouldn't dare talk back to Jewel because we had a respect for where she came from and how much she had worked in this area and what she had to go through as a Black woman in theater. And now you try to give somebody a what, and they what you back. And I just think we need to start as people, just loving each other more, caring, trying to help each other navigate the playing field. I can't remember who it was that was talking about R. Kelly
Mm-hmm.
and was talking about the fact that we didn't do what we were supposed to do.
Mm.
When stuff first started coming out, we should have smacked that boy upside his head. We should have not, made excuses for that kind of behavior. We should have taken him and taught him the man that he was supposed to be. But as a community, we didn't do that. As a community, we tend to turn a blind eye. And then later on, they're alone, but they shouldn't be alone.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
That's deep.
I want more of us. I recently was talking to a friend who, struggled with an employee who was disrespectful, and it hurt my feelings because I knew them both, and it hurt my feelings. I was like, no. And I'm so sorry that happened. I've been cursed out by an actor before.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And a part of it was me doing my job and saying no to something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not saying I was kind the entire time, but if I said it 3 times, let it go.
Yeah. Why are you still asking?
Why are you still asking the same question? But I have to also come to grips. Sometimes I need to just let it go, you know? Let them go. Let it go. Let it go. What's the worst that can happen if I let it go?
That's true. Self-reflection is a part of it, right? That you
Mhm.
gotta accept, okay, this is not playing out the way I expected. Maybe I could have handled it better. Maybe they could have handled it better. Let's move on. What is
Let's
our
move on.
objective? Do we have the same
Hmm.
goal here? Let's try to
Hmm.
fixate on that and move through this. Because the beauty of all these projects is they're always temporary
Mm.
and eventually they'll end. So if you're giving me problems, I only have a few more weeks and we can part ways, move on.
I move on.
Hmm. Okay. So you've said in an interview once, and I quote,
Mm.
here we go. Black girl magic. It's real. It's Black girl divinity. It's always been there. And it had to be there because of the positions we found ourselves in. You said that. You said that Black women are survivors. When you look at your life thus far, what do you hope that the Black women around you who have seen you, who have come in contact with you, who have experienced you, can take away from your journey?
Oh, that's deep. I said that.
You sure did.
Sometime I be deep.
Most of the time.
No, one of the things, and I'm going to go into the side of me that is working on developing my spiritual relationship with the Lord, is love. I want people to see and feel the love of Christ in me. So that's one thing. That's the big spiritual thing. The other thing that I would really love is that people feel comfortable in their own skin, that there is no need to follow the crowd. There is no need to involve yourself in negativity. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to be alone until you find a new crew. It's okay. Because if people are not pouring into you, They are not meant for you. And pouring into you doesn't mean condoning everything you do. Pouring into to you means, you think you should have posted that on Facebook? You want to be an attorney, right?
Mhm.
Just
Take another look.
taking a
Yeah.
hmm. But I do feel like, particularly as Black women, we need to celebrate each other. Permed hair, natural hair, locks, kinky curl, braids, crochet, whatever, makeup, lashes, no lashes, lipstick, no lipstick, nails, no nails. Just to be able to look at each other and just see that beauty that emanates from us. Because I do think Black women are fierce.
Hello. I mean, just
Just
incredible.
incredible.
Mhm.
Even even the Black women that I feel like haven't had the advantages that I've had. Even the Black women that don't speak the way I speak.
Mhm.
Even the Black women that haven't had the lives that I've had. I'm starting to look around and see Black women and just see how special and precious we are, and how important we are, and how necessary we are.
When we're absent, our absence is felt deeply and seen. So I concur. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for saying those words.
Thank you for letting me.
Yes, yes, of course. So what's next for you, ma'am? What are you excited about these days? And I'm not necessarily saying a project. I mean, you could be excited about rest. As my daughter likes to say, "Hey mom, I had some radical rest today." And I'm like, "That's right, girl.
I like
Radical
that.
rest."
I
Mhm.
like that. I am excited that a friend, I'm not going to name her, and I are going to start working on our writing projects.
What? Isn't that
I'm
something?
not going to name that friend because I think she knows who she is, but I'm excited about that. I'm excited about having someone that we can hold each other accountable to just putting something down and not what I'm so caught up in form. I'm so caught up. I've had so many times when I've created someone and I've been told, well, you can't do it that way. And it's stifling when someone says you can't do it. Well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why
Yeah.
can't I do it that way? I know the rules and now I'm breaking them. I'm excited about the piano lesson coming up
Yeah.
at First Stage, playing Bernice. It's one of my bucket roles. So I'm very excited to have an opportunity to perform in that under the direction of Danielle Drakes. Um,
Another incredible Black woman. I love thank you for
yes,
these drops of like just mentioning these incredible Black women
yeah.
directors, just artistes.
Artiste who had just recently directed Colored Water
Mhm.
at I think Mosaic. They're very excited to work with her. I haven't had an opportunity to work with her since we did Intimate Apparel, and that was decades ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a minute
That was a
while
minute
back.
ago.
Mhm.
I'm excited about my next birthday coming up. I am going to get some radical rest. I'm going up to New York. I'm
Yes.
gonna stay for 2 days. I'm gonna go see Gypsy. Got
Ooh.
me some nosebleed seats on sale. Um, and I'm excited about what I don't know. I'm excited that I feel that there's a new journey on the horizon for me. We haven't announced our season yet, but we finally got the last piece of the puzzle. And that last piece of the puzzle is the show that I am slated to direct. And I'm excited about that. I'm getting to direct more things that aren't like traditional layout things. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I think there's some things out there that God's not telling me. And I'm doing some more casting. I love that. So I get to get to work with Kenyatta, who is another one of my favorites. He, his wife, and his beautiful family, and do some casting.
Fantastic, fantastic art. I mean, there's just so many. There's so many
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode,
That's a
right? To
whole
just
other episode, but I
go
have
down
to
the
drop the
list.
dime on Thembi. I have to drop the
Ooh,
dime on
ooh,
Thembi. I have to. I
who,
have
me?
to. I
Me?
have to. I have to drop dime on Thembi because the journey that you took, and where you are now was counterintuitive to the road you were headed on. And it happened and you developed and you grew and you took that ball and you ran with it. And I'm so proud of you. I'm not really happy that you're so far away from us. That's a
Yeah,
problem.
it is. And I'm not happy about it either.
That's
We
a
have to figure that out. No,
We're
you're
going to have
right.
to figure that out. We're going to have to
Yeah.
meet midway and go to a 7-Eleven. For those of you who don't know, Thembi and I used to do like midnight runs to 7-Eleven and just sit in the car and eat candy and drink soda and talk
That
about
was
the
the best.
world. It was
Those were
great.
the best
It
times.
was when we weren't gaining weight because we were young and beautiful. And
Yeah, we didn't care. We could eat whatever we
we could
wanted
eat
to
whatever we
eat.
want. Lord have mercy. I can't. I don't know about Thembi, but I can't do that anymore.
Nope, nope. We're still beautiful, slightly older, but
Lately.
cannot eat all that candy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
I love you back. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I know I probably sounded like I was rambling, but I have a stream of
Mm-mm.
consciousness that I can't always articulate.
No,
Um,
no. You may have felt that way on the inside, but on the outside over here, you sounded perfect.
Thank
And
you.
everything you said was very powerful and thoughtful. It really had me thinking about a lot of things, and I know it'll have the listeners thinking, those who know and love you and those who are just hearing your voice for the first time.
Mhm.
And I'm glad to have had the opportunity to talk with you today.
I know I want to be on your show every week because then we get to spend
Yeah.
time together.
Exactly. Listen, say less because we can come right back and have another conversation. I already talked to JJ. I was like, we got to figure out how to do like a few of us together on an episode, and he was
Yeah.
very down.
Oh,
I
that would
talked to
be
Jefferson. Listen,
funny. That would be fun.
listen.
That would be
I
fun.
I'm gonna figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah.
You
But
know I will.
also, I don't know, can we create a Siskel and Ebert kind of thing, me and you?
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean we can do whatever we want. Who's
We
gonna stop
can.
us?
Right, we can. It'll be fun.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
yeah.
Okay,
We
y'all. Well,
gotta
y'all hear that, right? So now we have to do it because
because I said it.
Deirdre just said it,
I
and
spoke
now
it.
that's right. We have to do it and be held accountable for it, as well as that other project that she
That
kind of hinted to.
I did hint about
Hmm.
me having
Hmm.
a writing partner whose
Yep.
name shall not be mentioned.
No, we're
Not
not
gonna
gonna say who it is,
we're not gonna say who it is.
but she does know who she is.
I do know. And I
Hmm.
think she knows
Yeah,
who
she knows. That's what I was talking about. The other she.
the
Yeah,
other she.
right. The
Oh,
she in question.
the she in
Hmm.
question.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I got that. I got it. I got it.
It's totally happening.
Yeah,
Like the ideas are flowing and things happen in their time.
they do.
We both know that.
They do.
All right.
All
I
right.
guess that's it for now. Everybody, this is Deirdre LaWan Starnes here on KeyBARD with me, Thembi, for people who've known me for a very long time, Thembi, if you're nasty. Till next time. KeyBARD is produced, directed, and hosted by Thembi Duncan. Theme music produced by Psycho Sid. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow, leave a review, or give us a 5-star rating. Your support helps the show reach more listeners, and it means the world to me. Thank you for listening.